Round number 4. Been a pretty crazy week, as we all know. And a lot of people have been asking us for updates on the biggest story of the new year so far.
Have.
So here it goes. Those Lejeune Marines with 3.6 still have not found those rifles that went missing on December 18th. And according to several DMs that Chaps received after our last episode, we got the facts entirely fucking wrong. Who knows? All we know is that they are still missing.
Terrible.
Anyways, that being said, now that you know we got that wrong, here's our take on Iran. Here's our expert opinion on what's going on. First, let's start off by addressing the most pressing questions we've been getting on social media with a little bit of mail call. Because a lot of people have been tagging us in the news stories saying, what's your guys' take on this? What do you think about this? Please tell us. You are the all-knowing ZBT. And like, of course, we're experts on everything.
Thank you.
Do you want to read the first question that we got here at Captain Cons?
Yes, this came from @ZBTFan69.
Wow.
Where does the newly formed Space Force fall into all this geopolitical drama?
Great question at ZBTFan69. Getting this a lot, and clearly our adversaries forgot that we had a Space Force. Otherwise, they wouldn't have caused any trouble in the first place, I think. So, yeah, I don't know where they fall into it yet, but I think it'll be a big win for us.
Probably so. The next question comes from former West Point guy, football guy number 9.
Wow.
If this conflict escalates, how will it affect next year's West Point football season? Well, I'm not really sure how this would affect it. Some are saying it would propel us to a national championship because we'd get all the best recruits and completely turn around the season we had this year. So I'm hopeful that it has a positive effect.
Was that your burner account?
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. Finally, at PFC commenter, could still continuing to post TikToks in uniform get me out of deployments if I get drafted? Asking for a friend. Okay, a second CBT burner account. Nice try, Bren. No, it will not get you out of anything. So those are the burning questions people want to know. That was terrible. Space Force. That was fucking heinous. I tried.
Did you make those up?
I did. I made those all up. That was terrible. In real news, though, here's some of our latest
Katie
developments.
Wine wrote those last night, just so we know.
I was here till midnight.
Katie, that's what they call Katie Cabernet.
Katie Cabernet. I had a little bit of wine watching the Eagles lose, and I had a little too much wine, and I was like, I'm going to write a script. And then that was that. And so Golden Globes next year, maybe I'll be there. Anyways, in the real news, much less fun, even though I would say that was more painful than fun. In real news, here's some of the latest developments in the aftermath of the January 3rd Trump-ordered drone strike on Iran's top military guy.
General Qasem Soleimani.
Qasem Soleimani. Trump said and also this one too, Quds, Q-U-D-S. Quds? Quds?
It's kind of like GIF and GIF.
The Quds commander, I'm going to call them the Quds, commander had been planning an imminent attack on U.S. diplomats and forces in Iraq. So this was the result. And if you want to know more about that, because people were saying, like, how could that be legal? The Trump order. There's a really interesting article by retired Captain Lawrence Brennan on, I think it's military.com, of why that action was lawful. If you want to check it out, he goes and explains like why this was allowed. Like technically it is lawful. It was allowed to happen.
It's interesting too. And I always reference this guy, Gary Solis, my old professor. He's one of the preeminent authorities on the law of war. And he used the example. He said, let's say that General Milley, our current chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, was killed by an Iranian bomb outside of Dulles Airport. What would we call it? We'd call it murder and an act of war. Could be described as an assassination. And the difference being with what happened with Soleimani is that there was an imminent attack according to what our intel, or that's what, President Trump is saying. So that's what the differentiate between an assassination and a lawful killing of this gentleman.
Right. There was some nefarious plans in the works there. But in the days since, we know that things have continued to get crazy. Over the weekend, Soleimani's funeral procession, it started on Sunday, and Iranian state TV estimated that millions of mourners came out across the country, especially in the cities. They had 2 cities that they were taking his body through, and then 2 more today, to pay their respects as the remains were paraded through the streets. Not sure how much I trust Iranian state TV, but the photos and videos from it look like the response has been absolutely massive.
And we're also not sure if it's forced. Like, if you have to go out there and do that, too. Like, that. I mean, I could definitely see that type of thing happening. And it's a big event, and they know, like, if you're in Iran now, you know that something big is looming, and you want to show, like, national support. Even if if you don't agree with some of the things that he did, you're out there and looking and seeing, and it's a big event that took place.
It is a big event, and also things have maybe shifted and changed, but people were holding his portraits aloft because he was one of the country's most popular figures during the Iran-Iraq War from 1980 to 1988. He was a huge hero of that. So other generations may remember him differently than the younger generations do, or this or that. So there's a lot to it. And demonstrators also carried red Shiite flags, which traditionally symbolize both the spilled blood of someone unjustly killed and a call for vengeance. Chants of death to America were a hot ticket item both yesterday and I'm sure today.
And since I wrote that blog, I wrote the blog when it initially happened, and I said in the blog that I thought it was kind of like Secretary Mattis would be killed while he was still secretary. And I think that's really apt. Like, I think that has turned out to be true, that he's beloved like Mattis was,
right,
or Mattis is, like amongst the military crowd and the civilian population.
So Iran's supreme leader vowed severe revenge and declared 3 days of mourning, which, again, the country is still in. Also on Sunday, in the face of growing Iraqi anger over the strike, the country's parliament in Iraq urged the government to oust roughly 5,200 American troops. So also in Iraq, and this is the part, I'll be honest, like I wasn't fully understanding, maybe because Iraq didn't know that we were going to do that, and they feel slighted as well, and it puts tensions between those two countries who already have a rough history in a weird spot. So I don't fully understand that, I'll be completely honest. But on top of demonstrators in Iran and parliament members in Iraq coming at us, we've got some problems stateside. Guys, we've been hacked.
Oh, no.
We've been hacked by Iran. Iranian hackers used technology that we can only assume is a 1987 TS-3000 Texas Instruments calculator taped to a potato.
Shout out Boobless.
What's that?
Shout out Boobless.
Shout out boobs. Oh, yeah. To hack a U.S. government webpage over the weekend, they posted an image of a bloody Donald Trump receiving an Iranian fist to the face, captioned with pledges for revenge. And the website they chose to hack? Hold on to your dicks and vaginas, because it was a site that we as Americans rely on every day. The Federal Depository Library Program website.
Not the FDLP.
Yes, I'm sorry. It was. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Son of a bitch.
The group, which calls itself Iran Cyber Security Group Hackers, appears unlikely to be working on Tehran's behalf, but they said, this is only a small part of Iran's cyber ability. So stay tuned, because next they're going to come for the American Dental Association government site. Who knows? It's going to be rough. So you can play some crickets there. They really did say that, though. We've only just begun. Like, okay, weirdos.
And it was so bad. Like, if you're going to take over, do something funny. Like, it said, taken over by Iranian hackers. Like, oh, grow up in the taskbar. Like, what a shitty. Take some time. If you're going to take the time to hack something, make a better Photoshop. I mean, it just looks so terrible.
Terrible
Make
Photoshop.
At least a GIF or something.
Yeah, it was very weird. It was very like 1980s looking. Like
I feel like that's even less impressive than like when celebrities get their Twitter accounts hacked.
Right.
Like, that's more.
Yeah,
impressive
Mariah
than
Carey
hacking
saying like she wants to give Eminem her pussy is like way better than that.
Yeah.
Maybe that was them too. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're causing a
Could
stir.
be.
So moving on to that, since we're already covering the World Wide Web, let's head over to Twitter, where Trump caused a stir with these two doozies of tweet storms in particular. First up, from Sunday afternoon, these media posts, he tweeted this out, these media posts, he's talking about his tweets, will serve as notification to the United States Congress that should Iran strike any U.S. person or target, the United States will quickly and fully strike back, and perhaps in a disproportionate manner. Such legal notice is not required, but is given nevertheless.
And I want to say here, I hate the fact that we're doing all this on Twitter. I hate that it comes across on Twitter that that's how we're doing presidential decrees. Right. I also hate the fact that the House Foreign Affairs Committee responded. This media post will serve as a reminder that the war powers reside in the Congress of the United States Constitution, and that you should read the War Power Act, and you are not a dictator. I'm just so fucking tired of government agencies using Twitter as a way to go at each other. Just fucking stop, man.
I thought that
stop. Too. It's not professional at all. And I mean, what the president is.
This is real shit. It's fucking war.
Right.
Yeah.
There's
it shouldn't be dealt with via Twitter. But what I think the president is referring to, and things have escalated since 9/11. But in 2002, the authorization for use of military force gave the president a lot more leeway to react without getting Congress's approval, and that's what he's referring to in this situation.
I just think, like Chap said, on both sides, it's like. To me, it's such a slap in the face to people whose lives are really on the line in all this, which is ultimately the lower enlisted and the military people who are doing whatever. Anyways, then...
And the people, like, have you guys seen that map? Like with Iran, going at it with Iran, there's so many bases that are just on the outskirts of Iran that have tons of military personnel. Like Qatar has 13,000. Kuwait has 13,000. There's so many military members that are in a close striking distance. It is unbelievable, like the provocation that's taking place just on Twitter. If you want to be a bolsterous commander-in-chief, I have zero problem with that. Like when President Bush got into the Oval Office and he sat down in front of the Resolute desk and he looked Iraq and Afghanistan in the face after 9/11 and was like, we're coming for you, motherfuckers, essentially. I love that at the time. But it's like, we have so many people on the ground. We've been there for 19 years. Can we just act like adults and try to get this figured out without saying that we're going to attack 52 different places and have a response that is what was the word that he used? He said that it is let me find it.
Disproportionate? No.
Yeah, that it might be a disproportionate response. Like, that's a war crime. Like, you can't say we're going to do war crimes as the United States.
Speaking of, later that night, Trump doubled down on his claim that he would target Iranian cultural sites if Iran retaliated for our killing of their top military guy. He said, this is 3 tweets. I'm going to read them all because Iran is talking very boldly about targeting certain USA assets as revenge for our ridding the world of their terrorist leader who had just killed an American and badly wounded many others, not to mention all of the people he had killed over his lifetime, including hundreds of Iranian protesters. He was already attacking our embassy and preparing for additional hits in other locations. Iran has been nothing but problems for many years. Let this serve as a warning that if Iran strikes any Americans or American assets, we have targeted 52 Iranian sites representing the 52 American hostages taken by Iran many years ago, some at a very high level and important to Iran and the Iranian culture. And those targets and Iran itself will be hit very fast and very hard. The USA wants no more threats. To me, if there was anybody in Iran who is just an innocent bystander and you see that, now you're fucking pissed. You've chosen your side. To me, first of all, under international laws, attacking cultural sites is a war crime.
I don't read that as him saying cultural sites, though. No. I said the Iran culture. I think you could attack something that means a lot to the culture that isn't necessarily a cultural site, if that makes sense.
But he says,
well, then you're gonna love
it right here. Targeted 52. They already have the sites picked out.
No, I'm reading it. I don't read that as culture sites.
Well, he clarified it on Air Force.
No language is what causes.
Well, correct. And he clarified it on Air Force One whenever he talked to reporters. He said, "No, I'm talking about the cultural sites. If they can go after our people, we can go after their cultural sites."
To me, worth noting, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo walked back on those tweets and said that whatever was done in any military engagement would be within the bounds of law. But to me, that right there, God, public opinion is so important in this stuff, and to me, that is just like. That's coming at there's I think people forget there's also lots of plenty of innocent bystander, just innocent people. That's the worst part of all this, who are civilians there, who are just I don't know. The whole thing just felt so ugly and so
well, hopefully the thing that comes from it, if we can hope on good hoping that they see this and they're like, fuck, maybe he's not messing around. Maybe we don't retaliate and do something different. Maybe it does serve a purpose of being a preemption. Instead of a preemptive strike, it's a preemptive tweet where they know that if something happens, we have the power, we have the ability that we're going to fuck you up big time. So
I think you got to take it seriously after what has already happened.
And I wanted a fucking reason. I'd be like, good. We do one thing, they hit one of these sites, now it's all let's fucking go.
But we've already responded by taking out their top guy.
I just feel I don't know. It's just very stressful.
I mean, the other thing I keep
going back to. It's certainly stressful, yeah, you're absolutely right.
It definitely is. But the other thing I keep going back to, Pompeo, Milley, Esper, 3 very, very smart individuals with a ton of military experience, geopolitical experience, that are in his ear, hopefully he's listening to them.
Well, he's clearly not, but I don't know.
No, I disagree. I don't think he would just be doing these things willy-nilly, because I think he really likes those 3 gentlemen. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in those positions and everything he said about them. So I think he is listening to them, and I'm giving hope that he is. And one other thing, I heard from someone in the 82nd who has said, everything that's going on over there right now is being sensationalized in our media, and it's not nearly as contentious over there as we're made to believe it is right now.
Well, it definitely is being made to seem that it's contentious, and it is. It's like very stressful. It's stressful as fuck. I'm worried about my friends who are still serving. I don't know. And as all this develops and tensions rise, thousands of troops are set to be deployed to the Middle East. Among them, more than 3,500 Fort Bragg soldiers, many of them from the immediate response force of 82nd Airborne, as Cons just mentioned there. And there's also a group of around 200 from the 75th Ranger Regiment heading out. And the Navy amphibious assault ship with thousands of Marines on board will skip planned training in Africa to head that a ways as well. And I'm sure across all the branches, there's a lot of things getting set in motion. So online, military and civilian alike, where there's like a lot of arguing. There's a ton of World War III and draft dodger jokes.
How do you guys feel about those?
Some of them are it's funny, and I think it's people trying to keep things light. I saw a really
you know what I like about this conversation so far, because we do, and if you've listened for a long time, there was a time on the show where we talked a lot more about politics and what's going on with the president and like how like elections and shit like that, and we don't do that now. But I think that the conversation that me, Kate, and Cons just had is definitely a reflection of what's happening like in platoons, like when you're training, when you're doing things. Not everybody agrees. Some people are left, some people are right, and that is the way that the military works. Except for there'd probably be a lot more F-bombs going on, a lot more yelling, a lot more fuck you bitch going on. And I think that that's the way that it's going to work. As far as the World War III memes, there was one that popped up. It's like, if you giving somebody the side eye if they've never served and they're joking about World War III, or like laughing hysterically if you have served and you have World War III. I think this might be one of the first times online in a long time that I was like a military gatekeeper, you know?
Yeah,
right.
Like, yeah. There was here at work, like certain people are like, "Oh, be in my skit about World War III," and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll just say flat out, I didn't really like that skit. That kind of bothered me.
I just am generally, I'm not sure. So the one that I liked was, you know, when you go to like 7-Eleven, you get the giant cup and you can hit two of the like soda tabs at the same time.
Yes.
The one soda flavor was like laughing at World War III memes, and the other soda flavor that was getting in the cup at the same time was like also being worried about World War III. Like, I don't know. I think.
And the only reason why I didn't mind this skit, because we talked about it in the ZBT group chat, the only reason why I didn't mind is because you could tell somebody like Mantis wasn't ready, did not want to. Everybody was scared for him. Big Cat was scared for him going forward. Like, even though it was making light of what the situation was, it's still a situation that, like, really that you have to keep an eye on, because whenever you're going to a large scale conflict, or you're on the brink of a large scale conflict, that shit is scary. And even if you bring it out like to the vision via comedy, I think that's fine. If they were like, oh hell yeah, now Mantis is gonna go fuck some people up, maybe a little different.
Slightly different.
I think it's important to note though too, while I will say that I don't think it's impossible that another large scale conflict could happen, it might. I don't think we will ever, especially in our lifetime, see a conflict on the scale of a world war ever again.
Somebody knock on wood. That's what they said after World War I. The war
No. Well, after World War I, the League of Nations kind of fell to shit. But I think you've seen now, with everything that's gone on in the world, where post-World War II, since the United Nations was formed in 1945, I think you've seen times where there was a potential for a world war, and that was quelled because of the amount of communication that occurs now. You have to remember, back in World War I, the way you communicated with another country, you sent a diplomat over to another country to kind of talk to someone.
Now
we tweet. Yeah, you didn't have those instant lines of communication. So I think when you have that breakdown of communication, that's when things can get to a place where things get a little hairy quickly.
We're more about more pinpointed wars, but that last way longer now. That's the hot thing to do. But anyways, this conversation clearly we see all three of us, all four, everybody listening sees things differently, has different perspective that they're coming at it from. And I think the tough part for everybody is the not knowing and the confusion, and every news site you look at has something different. So I'm just as fucked in the head with this as everybody else is.
Dude, Kate, you're so right about that. Like, trying to find a source that believe everything that they're saying, like, and it's taking bias and all that shit out of it, it is impossible. And we look at the news all the time for this show to try to find like the best sources and things like that. Like, searching through different tweets and trying to find parts that I believe, parts that I don't believe, that is so tough, man. Like, that's the denigration of like truth, and it sucks. especially in a situation like this.
I'll read a tweet from somebody that I'm like, you know what? That makes a whole lot of sense. I kind of feel that. I think I agree with this. And then I'll see a counter tweet that's like, but think about their tweet this way. And I'm like, wait, maybe this person's right. Oh, I don't know. So I just I don't know.
Well, I also think it's important to remember that we're not always ever going to have all the information necessary to make that much of an informed decision or an opinion on what's going on. Because as Ray Zelinsky once said, what the American public doesn't know is what makes them the American public. And I think that's important because I think it's important.
Ass bitches.
Because I think if the American public knew everything at that highest level, there would be such hysteria.
I'm just saying it's confusing out there right now.
Oh, it absolutely
P's and P's
is.
to everybody. That's it.